Discussions open on special committee to study issues on State Legislative Assembly. Ready to be rebranded by second quarter of this year. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight. I'm SAHIH. The special committee to study issues related to the competencies of the State Legislative Assembly in enacting Islamic laws is open to discussion with all quarters, including political parties. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said that the committee will study all views and suggestions before proceeding to the next stage. Datuk Seri Anwar said that it is better for certain parties that have been criticising and accusing the government of not defending the Sharia court to participate in the committee's decision. Former Chief Justice Tun Zaki Tun Azmi presented an initial briefing before the Sultan of Selangor on Thursday, and in a prior meeting, Datuk Seri Anwar said he had also agreed for the special committee to convene and meet with all parties to discuss the matter openly.
Kata, saya setuju jawatankuasa ini bersidang dan jumpalah siapa pun nak kemukakan pandangan. Baik, dan minta dia bincang dengan semua negeri. Dan bincanglah dengan baik. Siapa, mana ulama, mana parti nak bincang, biar ambil sikap terbuka, dengar pandangan mereka.
He said this at the opening ceremony of Masjid Jami' Tengah Berapit in Bukit Mertajam today. He added that once an agreement has been reached, it'll be tabled to the cabinet and presented to the conference of the rulers. If consented, he said that it will be enacted in Parliament for support, amend and improve the quality of the Sharia courts. Last December, Tun Zaki was appointed as chairman of the special committee to study issues related to the competencies of State Legislative Assembly in enacting Islamic law. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim today said that the issue of price control on rice will be one of the main agenda to be discussed by the National Action Council on Cost of Living, NACOL, next week. He said the meeting, which had been scheduled earlier, had to be postponed to next week to include more urgent matters such as rice price control. He also advised the middleman against profiteering as it will cause prices in the market to soar.
Kita tangguh, saya ingat tak salah saya minggu depan, di mana boleh kita putuskan secara muktamad tentang harga beras yang boleh kawal. Tak boleh rendah sangat, tapi saya yakin boleh dikurangkan. Nah, kalau kita umpamanya teliti beli daripada mana, kontraktor tu bagi kepada siapa, untung dia berapa banyak. Kalau rugi tak ada orang nak berniaga. Untung ambil lah, tapi janganlah tinggi sangat, sebab kalau untung dia tinggi sangat, harga di pasaran dah tinggi.
In another development, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar said Zakat, or the TIT institution, must solve fundamental problems related to hardcore poverty in the country. He emphasised that towards this, the collection must reach the targeted or intended recipients to ensure that none of the less fortunate are left behind.
Zakat ini bukan sahaja soal pendapatan negara, tetapi institusi yang dikaitkan dengan kemiskinan. Sebab itu kalau tanya saya dalam bicara soal zakat di negeri-negeri ini, walaupun di bidang kuasa negeri, saya tidak boleh terima kenyataan negeri yang boleh kumpul dana zakat yang besar tetapi masih ada kelompok miskin tegar. Saya ambil alih tahun lalu, lebih setahun yang lalu, di wilayah persekutuan, saya arahkan, bagilah teori apa, penjelasan apa pun, selagi ada rakyat di Kuala Lumpur masuk kategori miskin tegar, selain daripada langkah-langkah lain daripada kerajaan, saya nak zakat itu dimanfaatkan sepenuhnya.
The Digital Economy Centre, PEDI, will be given a new name and function in a rebranding exercise expected to be carried out by the second quarter of this year. Communications Minister Fahmi Fadil said the rebranding would be done considering that the centres were also utilised by the community for activities that do not involve the digital economy.
Jadi saya lihat ada keperluan untuk kita dalam proses menambah baik padi, mungkin ada sedikit penjenamaan baru bagi semua padi yang sesuai manfaat dengan hala tuju baru yang sedang kita rangka bagi padi.
Paddy are frequented by the public to get information about grants, assistance and services provided by the government, with some also serving as post offices. As a community centre, it can also play a more important role in the dissemination of information to the masses, in addition to being a learning centre involving artificial intelligence (AI) activities for the local community. A total of 1.2 million, or 80% of 1.5 million civil servants, have registered with the Central Database Hub PADU system as of today, according to the Chief Statistician, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzir Mahidin. While thanking the civil servants for their good cooperation, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzir said the commitment shown was something to be proud of. He said this when giving a briefing on Padu to the Orang Asli community in Kampung Sungai Penjuring today, which was also attended by Pahang Department of Statistics Malaysia DOSM Director Razaman Rizwan. Prior to this, the media reported that all civil servants were required to register and update their data with Padu by 15 February at the latest. As of yesterday, the number of individuals who have updated their information in the Padu system is 3.43 million. The Padu system was launched on 2nd January, and Malaysians aged 18 and above can register and update their personal information until 31st March. With more than 40 days left to register with the system, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzir also reminded the public to do so quickly to avoid system congestion. Starting from 1st August this year, Malaysians using the shuttle to Brau train service will enjoy a one-way fare of RM5 from JB Central to Woodlands, Singapore and vice versa. Kereta Api Tanah Melayu Berhad KTMB said in a statement today that the tickets could be bought from 29th February. Currently, the price for a one-way ticket from JB Central to Woodlands is RM5, while the ticket for the opposite direction is $5 Singaporean. The readjustment of this fare rate will benefit approximately 40,000 Malaysian citizens who rely on the railway service mode for commuting between JB Central and Woodlands, as they will no longer need to pay the $5 Singaporean fare from Woodlands. To enjoy this privilege, KTMB said Malaysian citizens need to register an account on the KTMB mobile application kits and verify their identity card first at the ticket kiosk or ticket counter throughout the KTMB network. KTMB will also open additional counters at JB Central to ensure smooth verification of identity cards, which will be implemented from 19 February to 1st March. The identity card verification is a security measure to prevent unauthorized individuals from abusing citizen fares. Coming up next, Malaysia GDP grew 3.7% amidst tough challenges last year. Malaysia recorded a gross domestic product GDP growth of 3.7% in 2023 after an expansion of 3% in the fourth quarter of the year, supported by continued recovery in economic activity and labour market conditions. Bank Negara Malaysia BNM said growth moderated amid a challenging external environment last year, following the strong growth of 8.7% registered in 2022. On a quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted basis, the economy contracted by 2.1% compared with a growth of 2.6% in the previous quarter. BNM highlighted that importantly, the external debt remains manageable given the favourable maturity and currency profiles. It said 1/3 of the external debt is denominated in ringgit, limiting currency risk, while around 70% of debt has medium and longer term tenures. Foreign currency borrowings are also subject to BNM's prudential requirements and continue to consist mainly of concessionary intergroup loans. Exports, however, remain subdued due to prolonged weakness in external demand amid stronger imports. For 2023 as a whole, headline inflation declined to 2.5% from 3.3% in 2022, while core inflation averaged at 3%. For 2024, it said growth will be driven by resilient domestic expenditure and improvement in external demand, with the International Monetary Fund projecting a rebound in global trade growth from 0.4% in 2023 to 3.3% in 2024. The National Semiconductor Strategic Task Force and SSTF will focus on several aspects, namely incentives, talent and ecosystem to transform and improve Malaysia's electrical and electronics E&E industry. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Tunku Abdul Aziz said when chairing the task force first meeting that among the matters prioritised by the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry MITI and the NSSTF were the review and reform of the incentive policy. He said this to ensure Malaysia remains competitive in attracting foreign direct investment as well as domestic direct investment to generate growth in the E&E sector. Additionally, the development and production of quality talent will be prioritised to meet the dynamic demand of the industry so that Malaysia's position as a centre of innovation and excellence remains strong. The task force will also identify appropriate sectors to form the basis of sustainable growth, for example, through a local vendor development program. The NSSTF was established via the National Investment Council meeting on 9 January as a special platform to discuss and implement the development direction of the Malaysian semiconductor industry ecosystem, including efforts to attract strategic and quality investment. 10 factory workers were rushed to hospital following an ammonia gas leak at a factory in Jalan Keluli 1 at the Bukit Raja Industrial Area in Section 7, Shah Alam today. Selangor Fire and Rescue Department Deputy Director, Operations Ahmad Mukhlis Mukhtar said they were alerted to the incident at about 11:15 a.m. He said preliminary checks suggested that there was a valve leakage from a tank storing ammonia gas. In a release statement, Ahmad Mukhlis said that the 10 victims comprised of 8 women and 2 men, including 1 worker from the factory next door. All victims have been sent to the Shah Alam Hospital for further treatment. Works to shut off the valve, meanwhile, was done by the Hazmat or Hazardous Materials team. On a related note, Shah Alam District Police Chief, Assistant Commissioner Muhammad Iqbal Ibrahim in a brief statement confirmed the incident. He said police and fire department personnel were immediately deployed to control the situation. All affected workers, meanwhile, were rushed to hospital and have received oxygen and are in stable condition. The authorities, he said, will provide updates on the situation. Coming out in our foreign front, 11 killed in New Delhi paint factory fire. At least 11 people died and 4 others were injured when a building collapsed during a massive fire that broke out at a paint factory. Fire department officials said on Friday that the identities of the deceased remain unknown in the incident, which took place in the northern part of India's capital, New Delhi, a day earlier. Delhi Fire Services rushed 22 fire engines to the Alipur area after receiving a call around 5:25 p.m. on Thursday and brought the fire under control within 4 hours. Its chief said fire that involves paint is very hard to extinguish, and because of that, the labourers got trapped inside after the building collapsed due to the air blast. The exact cause of the fire was still unknown, and rescue teams and firefighters were continuing to search for trapped people. It is suspected the factory had a single staircase with no firefighting equipment. Hong Kong authorities on Friday said they had arrested 7 people suspected of being involved in a $1.8 billion money laundering case, the largest ever in the financial hub. The 7 comprised 5 men and 2 women aged 23 to 74 years old, one of whom is believed to be the mastermind of the scheme, custom authorities said. They did not reveal the nationalities but said all 7 were Hong Kong residents. Authorities said the scheme allegedly involved online scams in India and the sale of electronics, rare gems including diamonds, among other goods. The scheme allegedly used shell companies and multiple bank accounts to launder money, with one account receiving more than 50 deposits in one day. Authorities did not name the banks. The 7 were all released on bail while investigation continued, and authorities did not rule out the prospect of further arrests. Still to come in sports, Mbappe tells PSG he will leave in the summer. Two-time champions Al Ittihad and Uzbekistan Navahor will go into the second leg of their AFC Champions League 2023-2024 round of 16, meeting in Jeddah next week, with all to play for after the teams shared a goalless draw at Marzukarzi Stadium on Thursday. Al Ittihad carved their way through the Navahor defence in the early exchanges, with Marwan Al-Sahafi shooting into Utkir Yusupov's hands after cutting in from the right and striking on the run. Abdelrazak Hamidallah then rattled the goalkeeper's left post from 8 yards out, while Hassan Kadish glanced his header across the face of goal at a corner, all with barely 10 minutes gone. But after Romarinho blazed his shot over the bar when given a sight of goal in the 15th minute, the home side settled as the half wore on. The stalemate continued into the second half, with Hamadallah and Ahmad Hegazi both missing for the visitors, and Al Ittihad goalkeeper Abdullah Al-Moif was only called into action with 15 minutes remaining. Neither side could find a way through the in front of a bumper crowd in eastern Uzbekistan, and the teams will have another 90 minutes plus the possibility of extra time and penalties at the King Abdullah Sports City Stadium next Thursday to determine who progresses. In Iran, Al Hilal came from behind to defeat Sepahan 3-1 in the first leg of the second round clash in the Champions League. After a tight opening, Al Hilal had a good chance after 28 minutes. Saud Abdul Hamid swung over a tempting cross and Salim Al-Daswari headed wide, taking the chance away from Mitrovic, who was waiting unmarked just behind. Just when it was starting to look like the teams would go in a goalless at the break, Sepahan struck after 38 minutes. A long pass from the edge of the host penalty area bounced deep inside the Al Hilal half for the onrushing Ramin Razilan, who thundered his shot across the goalkeeper and into the opposite corner of the net. The four-time champions were soon back in it. 10 minutes after the restart, Alexander Mitrovic had his first sight of the goal, and while his low shot was safe, Malcolm prodded home the rebound to silence the home crowd. Both teams continued to make chances, but it was Al Hilal who gained an advantage with just over 10 minutes left when Muhammad Danishar was shown a red card for a late tackle. In the 94th minute, Mitrovic climbed high to hit home a fine cross from Abdul Hamid to break the hearts of the Iranians, who then suffered another goal from Abdullah Al-Hamdan. The Iranians now go to Riyadh next Thursday, knowing they need a big win. France striker Kylian Mbappe has told Paris Saint-Germain he intends to leave the club at the end of the season. The 25-year-old deal with the League One champion is scheduled to expire, and he has been heavily linked with a move to Real Madrid. Mbappe's future was the subject of a major send-off with PSG last summer. At one point, Mbappe was exiled from the first-team squad and left out of the club's pre-season tour of Asia. However, an agreement was reached that ensured PSG would not lose out when Mbappe eventually left, and the terms of his now seemingly inevitable exit are still to be confirmed. The forward has a one-year extension clause, so it is expected his departure will involve either a sale with a transfer fee or financial sacrifice on the player's part. Whilst PSG would have wanted Mbappe to remain at the club, his exit looks set to come as they aim to build a younger squad and move away from the Galacticos plan that has also seen Argentina forward Lionel Messi and Brazil international Neymar leave since the end of last season. It is estimated Mbappe, who won the World Cup with France in 2018, earns around 200 million euros per year. Overall, he has 243 goals and 93 assists in 290 games for PSG and has helped the club to 5 League One title wins. Now it's time for our next segment on the table. Over to you, Brendan.
Thank you very much, Sahi, and good evening and welcome back to On the Table, where we discuss current issues making the news. Bringing rice to the table, well, not literally, the National Action Council for Cost of Living, NACOL, on Wednesday announced the implementation of the Malaysia Madani white rice to be made available starting the 1st of March. Now, to many wholesalers and industry players, the announcement came as a surprise. Be as it may, they've been given a timeline of between 19 February until the 1st of March to adjust pricing and stock in preparation for the new rice scheme. Now, on the line via video call, we welcome back Dr. Azmi Hassan, Senior Fellow at the Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research. And good evening, sir. First of all, we'd like to ask you on your thoughts. What do you make of this when it comes to the implementation of such a move towards Padi Beras Nasional Berhad Bernas?
Yeah, Brandon, I think it's high time that rice, distribution should be controlled. Or what is being done is that by NACOL, chairman of NACOL, is that it's a price control, but it doesn't call a price control. When you mention the wholesalers, the retailers, and the consumers like me too, I think it's come to a surprise. But again, as I said before, we need to do something about this because of the supply of rice, especially during this particular time and also during the pandemic, has come into question whether we have enough rice for our citizens. So, Brandon, to answer your question, I'm glad that NACOL made this particular decision, Brandon.
Right, Doctor, but unfortunately there are certain parties out there that are not too satisfied with this implementation. Now, with regards to some of the news that is making rounds on social media and also on the news as it may, there may be certain parties, they are actually, that they are not satisfied with this, saying that it could be a wrong move. Now, Dr. Azmi, what would you have to say about that?
No, it's a right move, Brandon. I think why there are complaints, I think especially from the retailers, the millers, and also the wholesalers, most probably maybe NACOL did not discuss with this particular entity. And I think I've never heard Bernas say anything about it. I think Bernas is quite satisfied for this particular strategy. But this morning, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar mentioned about this particular issue, the surprise issue. I think decision will be made next week. Whether on the pricing or on the strategy, on the supply chain side, I think will be discussed next week between NACOL and also the entity that are most surprised. But again, Brandon, rice being our staple food, I say it again, it's high time that the government step into it because it should not have occurred because we have enough rice supply in the first place, Brandon.
Right, so next week is when we wait for the decision made by the Cabinet. Food for thought, well, no pun intended. Now, most notably would be the pricing. Now, the dynamic price of 30 ringgit per 10 kg when SST local rice is priced at 26 ringgit and SSI imported rice at 40 ringgit, both per 10 kg. Now, given the timeline between 19 February until the 1st of March, now the implication would be that it'll be difficult for retailers maybe to sell off their existing stock? Would that be the case?
Yeah, it could be that the case, I guess. But for SST from 26 ringgit to 30 ringgit, I guess it should be fair. I think the growers, the local growers will be very happy. The unhappiness, Brandon, I think is about the imported rice. Because right now they are selling 40 ringgit per 10 kilogram because the imported rice has no cap price as the SST. Regarding whether they can remove this particular old existing stock, Brandon, this is an old story. Whenever price change, there'll be complaint about old stock, waiting for new stock. But again, the price, 30 ringgit for the Beras Madani white rice, I think it's not finalized yet. I think that's the most complaint, the 30 ringgit issue. Because if you see the SSI is 40 ringgit, selling at 40 ringgit right now. So I guess maybe, I'm not sure, maybe they'll go a little bit higher than 30 ringgit, maybe 31, 32 ringgit. I think that's fair for the wholesalers, retailers, and also for our local growers, Brandon.
Right, Dr. Azmi. Now, as consumers, we welcome the new pricing. So further implication would be the discontinuation of SSI and SST types of rice. Impact. which we would see on wholesalers and industry players. So your thoughts on this, Doctor?
Yeah, as a consumer, Brandon, I think you also will be very, very happy with the price cap, whether 30 ringgit or 35 ringgit, because the 40 ringgit that are currently selling for the imported white rice, I think it has been manipulated. It's too high. So I think I'm happy. If I'm happy, I'm sure Brandon is also happy with this particular strategy. Again, I say, Brandon, it's high time the government step in so that this particular issue, rice, is very important for us. I'm not sure about you, Brandon, but I eat rice, white rice, every day. Brandon.
I can't live without rice, Doctor. Now, Doctor, as this Madani rice scheme has been stated to be the sole category, would consumers be concerned on its quality? So having said that, Prime Minister today stated that NACOL will be convening next week to further streamline the scheme.
Yeah, Brandon, I think we shouldn't be worried about quality because even though it's only one category, is a combination between the local white rice and also the imported white rice. But we are buying right now, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon, even though it's stated imported white rice, maybe they got mixed together with the local white rice. So I think I prefer our local white rice grown in Malaysia, even though they are jasmine, what we call beras wangi. But again, nothing to be worried about the quality of this particular Madani white rice, Brandon.
Right. So, Dr. Azmi, before we go, we've unfortunately got about 1 minute left before we bid farewell. Maybe your thoughts and your advice to the people out there to probably not be scared about this particular scheme being implemented, Doctor?
No, I think when NACOL chairman put out the proposal, I think it has been thought, except that it was not discussed by the stakeholders, as you mentioned before this, the retailers, the wholesalers. So I guess I'm hoping that the supply chain of our white rice will be the end of it, will be no more an issue, because it shouldn't be an issue in the first place. So I'm hoping next week the government can come with a decision where all sides are very, very happy and satisfied, especially the consumers, Brandon.
Definitely something to look forward to. Dr. Azmi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your thoughts and opinions as well.
Thank you.
That was Dr. Azmi Hassan, Senior Fellow at the Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research. So if you would like to rewatch this particular news, especially on the table, you're more welcome to stream us at RTM Click. Till then, with saya Samsudin, my fellow colleague, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Take care.